Welcome to our three-line panelists this week. First, let's say hello to Las Cruces Sun News reporter Algernon Damasa. Good to see you, my friend. You joined us at the start of the session as well. We also welcome back Trip Jennings. He's executive director at New Mexico In Depth. Good to see you again. It's been a little bit, Trip. Welcome back. And hello to another long-lost face, Julia Goldberg of the Santa Fe Reporter. It's been a while, but we're awfully glad to have you back. Thank you all for being here and rolling with all of this last-minute news from the Capitol. We're going to start out by talking about what lawmakers have passed in the session. It took some procedural wrangling in both chambers, but the governor can claim several victories in this 30-day session. But some of her other top priorities will have to wait until a future year. We'll talk about all of that in a little over 20 minutes. For now, let's focus on what made it to Michelle Lujan Grisham's desk. The biggest headline being a nearly $8.5 billion budget. Despite other failures, wasn't this the main priority, Trip, of the whole thing? Got to get that budget passed. Was there supposed to be a bigger fight about this in your mind?
No, I mean, some of the fights were in some of obviously this is the biggest bill they have to pass every 30-day session. Mm-hmm. But, the fights were in some of the language, around, they tried to sneak in Hydrogen Hub Act stuff into the bill, the budget, and that was taken out at the last minute. There were a little kind of like wrangling in the back rooms over this. I don't think there was a huge fight because, they put a lot of money into the reserves, mm-hmm. and they have so much money this year that I think I didn't see a really huge fight. Mm-hmm. Some of my panelists would disagree.
It's an interesting point, Julia Goldberg. It's a big increase from any budgets we've ever had, but one of the big talking points in the budget is more money for public employees like teachers. How important was it for Democrats to get this passed, both for the people it impacts, certainly, but also heading into the midterms?
Sure. I mean, certainly, I think the last thing they wanted was to come out of this session looking like they couldn't get anything done, even when they're flush with money. Because if you can't do it then, when can you do it? And then given the crisis, the teacher vacancy crisis, I think getting that through was probably the most important thing for the governor to be able to say was accomplished. I still have questions about the how the actual budget recommendation for the state equalization guarantee, because there seem to be different numbers about what it's going to cost to implement those raises, but I'm sure they'll figure it out at some point.
That's a good point, right? At some point. That's an interesting point there. Algernon, the revised budget plan includes $55 million for bonuses intended to help recruit and retain law enforcement officers. And interestingly, that's a lot higher than the original $13 million originally proposed by the governor. Was that increase a makeup of sorts as it became more clear the other anti-crime legislation wasn't going to make it through?
Well, we can't forget that it's an election year and crime has been very much part of the agenda, as well as trying to signal strong support for law enforcement officers who have in some ways been crying foul and crying for help for a couple of years now. And so that investment seemed very important. And I also think alongside the budget bill, something that hasn't gotten as much fanfare because of all the other sort of big headlines that have come out of it is that we got a larger than usual capital outlay this year. A lot of projects and a lot of money moved around. Especially one thing to notice is that a lot of money that had been devoted to public school outlays got transferred to the maintenance fund so that we can actually clean and repair and maintain some of the buildings that we've recently built. And that's another big investment that we're going to be seeing. So I didn't want to just run away from law enforcement, but besides the budget bill, that was also an actual increased investment that we saw out of this session.
Trip, capping interest rates on storefront loans at 36% was anything but a slam dunk, but lawmakers ended up passing that limit after years and years and years and years of trying. Were you surprised that all that, that it got done this year in the middle of all this other stuff?
Yesterday, my jaw was dropped when I saw that because, as I was telling before, we started this. I remember writing about this back in 2007, and then Think New Mexico kind of posted on Twitter that this has been around for at least since 1999. It's never gotten through. The lobby for the industry has been incredibly powerful. And so I saw it, as part of it's moving through the legislature. There's going to be another year where it might make it close but it's not going to make it through. And when they passed it, that's a huge surprise actually for me.
Julia Goldberg, what do you make of the compromise to move the implementation back a year?
I think it's just that. It's a compromise. And I mean, as Tripp was saying, I think the governor choosing to make this one of her agenda items helped move the needle on this longstanding problem. And important to remember, too, that Think New Mexico, which was such a force behind it, this is a piece of a larger framework that has to do with retirement security in New Mexico. And, when I spoke with Fred Nathan, God, probably already 2 years ago on this, he told me that 62% of New Mexicans don't have anything saved for retirement at all. And 80% have $10,000 or less. So if you look at it in the big picture, I think pushing it back for a year doesn't make that much, is not that impactful, because you're really talking about one piece of trying to look at a much larger problem. So this is a big victory, but I think it's sort of the beginning of addressing a really systemic issue.
You mentioned, I appreciate you mentioning this, because it fits in with the governor also getting her wish on eliminating the tax on Social Security. But then also, again, she did push it through the gross receipts tax cut as well. Do those add, Julia, to the understanding that she really got something of substance here on this in this package?
Yeah, I mean, tax reform isn't probably the sexiest issue during an election year when you start getting into the weeds of it. And certainly, I think more than one lawmaker pointed out that this was a kind of confusing way to deal with tax policy, sort of piecemeal. But both the predatory lending piece and the Social Security issue, those are not brand new problems that haven't been studied. The analysis wasn't slapdash. They knew these were the right pieces to go. And I think certainly for seniors who, as I understand it, vote, it's going to be a welcome decision.
Algernon, we got a new child tax credit in there too. Again, when you start to look at this closer, does the package look a little bit better on closer inspection?
Well, we're going to see. Tax policy is complicated, and it involves in things like a child tax credit and some of these other tax incentives and credits that have been passed this session. We're really going to see, we're basing it on projections of what the stimulus value will be, how much spending money, discretionary money we're moving into people's hands, and whether that's going to go into savings account or whether that's going to go into the economy. It's interesting, and I think we'll probably be talking about this quite a bit, but this was a 30-day session, which in even-numbered years is the sessions that are supposedly devoted to budgetary and financial policy. But tax policy is complicated, and trying to jam that, as well as all of the hundreds of other pieces of legislation, into a 30-day session, I think it's hard to do tax policy really well, especially when you have these bills coming late in the session, when the nights go longer, and lawmakers are trying to work this out on sleep deprivation. So we'll see. And I pour through the fiscal analyses of these tax credits, and I'm not convinced that the numbers are going to align the way they think it does, because it's so hard to predict consumer behavior.
Excellent point there. Hey, Tripp, we got to go back to crime. There's no doubt. Again, it took a rebirth of sorts for a package of bills added onto a related bill as a 160-page amendment, as you know. But very early Thursday morning, a deal was struck, and included in the package is stricter penalties for some crimes, and police recruitment and retention bonuses, new judgeships, including here in Albuquerque, creation of a crime for operating a chop shop, and expanded access to ankle monitoring for pretrial defendants. Is that enough? I mean, for critics that said this legislature were dragging their heels on curbing crime to the last second here?
When we talk about crime and then we talk about it within the context of elections, it's really going to depend on, where you come down. I think there will be critics who are like, this is not enough. People who will say, hey, they got it through. Some of this other stuff was onerous on one end, and other people will say it's not enough. The governor really wanted to show that she was taking crime seriously, because it has been a major issue. I think that it's honestly, it's like tax policy sometimes with elections. You don't know exactly how this is going to be received as it goes to the election year, but I do think that this is going to be where she says, in ads, I did this, I also did raise teacher salaries. It's going to be about marketing.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways this is about, getting the word. She has something she can hang her hat on for re-election, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Julia, pick up on that if you would. This idea that the crime bill had so much stuff in the air going in, and then coming out of the back end of these 30 days, again, is it going to be enough for people to feel like something good has happened here that makes people feel safer, frankly?
I mean, just to reinforce what Tripp just pointed out, the Republican Governors Association group just unveiled this, 6-figure ad campaign solely based on the governor not being tough enough on crime. So this gives her something. The details of this bill I find very, I don't know how anyone could look at this and actually feel like, oh, this is helpful to anybody. The electronic monitoring, there's only electronic monitoring, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, I think in the second, the fourth, San Juan and Sandoval, the bill doesn't require it be increased anywhere else. It doesn't really require anything. It creates a grant program for pretrial services. It doesn't say when that should happen. It doesn't exactly say who's paying for it. It's sort of, so in general, even the analysis from the legislature says, the best way to deal with crime is to have more treatment, is to have this overall approach. Mm-hmm. This to me sort of, they chipped away at a couple of things, but I don't actually see how this is particularly helpful. Some of the higher profile details strike me as just that high profile and not necessarily substantive, but.
Good point.
Even during the committee process, the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, Senator Cervantes from down here in Las Cruces, he said himself that sentence enhancements, which got a lot of play in this package, he suggested that sentence enhancements don't really have much deterrent value and are kind of a feel-good measure. They allow lawmakers to feel like they've done something without actually addressing the issue. This is, Senator Cervantes is very candid about these things. And he said at one point, this is a near quote. He said, I know it's an election year and we do things.
Right. Can I say, Algernon is, we're all talking about the same thing, which is when we talk about legislative sessions in election years, mm-hmm. or even in out 2 years, you always have to think about how this plays in the election. And that's kind of how this thing probably was put together. That's part of it. That's part of the analysis by folks is how is this going to play in June and in November? Yep.
Good point there. Hey, I want to get some final thoughts on what lawmakers were able to accomplish during this regular session, during this 30, as Algernon mentioned. Let me start with you, Algernon, on that. Again, this is opinion-based, so tough to do with reporters, but out of what passed, should we be happy with the session in its totality?
I don't want to annoy you, Gene, but I'm actually going to sort of bridge our segments here, and I'm actually going to talk about how, although some things did not make it to the finish line, mm-hmm. I think that lawmakers and advocates were able to really advance some conversations that will return. I think there you're feeling the shadow of the election bill mm-hmm. and some of the voting rights provisions, as well as election security provisions that didn't make it in the closing minutes of the session. But I think that's coming back. And I think that, in that failure, there's going to be a lot of energy and passion and perhaps some organizing at the street level to try to push that through in a future session. And I don't mean that that's not the only example, but I think that might be the loudest example of that. Sometimes, even if the bill doesn't make it to the governor's desk, mm-hmm. the debate and the politics actually does have a positive way of moving the ball forward.
That's a good way to put it, Algernon. That's interesting. Julia, your thoughts on that? Should we consider this 30 a success for New Mexico?
I think that the bill legalizing fentanyl strips for drug checking is a really important bill. And I guess unlike other reporters, I'm happy to have an opinion. I was really pleased to see that it passed and that it passed easily, because that hasn't been the case in other states. It was a similar kind of amendment to Harm Reduction Act in Pennsylvania failed. I know there's other states that are putting it off because they're concerned about how it'll be perceived. But there's just growing research that this is really an important deterrent and a kind of modernized deterrent, moving away from sort of thinking of the drug problem as being one that's entirely around injections. And so I was pleased to see that it didn't get mired down in kind of a moralistic fight about drug use, because I think, a lot of it connects to the problems with violence. It connects to the problems, with unhoused people. The opiate and fentanyl issue kind of spreads all across New Mexico's issues. So I think it's, not as fancy. It probably won't affect everyday life for you or me, but I think it was an important bill. So if nothing else.
I don't think folks would argue that, Julia. Absolutely. Trippy, your thoughts? Success this 30?
I have three. One, in the larger education, K-12 education debate, there was a lot of backroom dealing with, New Mexico's 23 tribes having more control over educating their own children.
Right.
And actually, they got a lot more money in the Indian Education Fund this year than they ever have. That was a big win for advocates from the tribal communities. Another one is this is something that wasn't paid attention to greatly, but there is a uranium cleanup bill that passed today, which is a big deal up in around the tribal areas in the Northwest. Huge. It's been around for decades. I said three, and it just dropped out of my head.
It'll come back.
I don't know what the third
Don't you
one.
worry
It'll
about
come
it.
back. All right. Yeah.
No sweat. Thank you all for that discussion. We'll check back in with all of you in less than 15 to talk about all of the legislation that didn't pass and what happens next.